Hello and welcome to the On the RotoRadar DFS Podcast. My name is Joshua Riemer. I'm joined by none other than the man, the myth, the legend, Jared Block. Jared, how are you doing on this fine Friday afternoon?
Doing well, doing well. Have a big MLB slate finally for the first time in a couple days, and some more basketball action tonight. Stoked to dive in. There's a lot of, I think that today, out of all the days that we've had, maybe the entire season, feels like there's just so many offenses to choose from today. So hopefully we can lead some people in the right direction and see which teams are traps and which teams aren't.
Yes, sir. Exactly. Definitely looking to do exactly that. Looking to have a good day. Yeah, I don't think there's anything else. Let's get into this thing, man.
Yep, lots of games on the docket today. We won't be talking about the 6 p.m. Eastern window. It's not going to be on the main slates for DFS, so we're going to go ahead and just focus on the game starting at 7:05. We're going to talk about this first one here, which is going to be the Minnesota Twins and the New York Yankees. Right now, the Twins are coming in as a plus 152 road underdog behind Varland. Nasty Nestor Cortez for the Yankees, a minus 180 moneyline home favorite here. 8.5 is the total for this game. Let's start off by saying I think that this game should stay a lot closer today, or maybe if it doesn't, at least it's the other direction. So I know that we definitely got the leadoff call right of Eduardo, but I think that things should kind of turn around for the Yankees today.
Yes, sir. I think things should turn around for the Yankees, hopefully. This is a good spot for Cortez, where I don't think a lot of people end up taking him, but with the price tag where it's at, with this Twins team struggling recently, I think you're going to get some low ownership. Wouldn't mind it. I think it's an okay play, mostly just because this Twins team isn't very good against lefties. But outside of that, I don't know. There's not a whole lot that I want to attack in cash games for this one. Even on that Yankee side, I think people are underestimating Varland a little bit here. I didn't even know this until my stream, Jared, but like Varland's like a top pitcher in the organization in terms of prospects. There's not many guys that are up there like he is, and I think he's even a top 100 pitcher overall in terms of prospects in the MLB too. So he's a very highly regarded pitcher and was absolutely filthy in his first start in AAA. And I'm a little bit scared to target against him, but I think that's what people might potentially do today, and that scares the crap out of me.
Yeah, I mean it's a hotter day. Temps are going to be in the 80s to start the game. Winds blowing right to left doesn't really do that much for this spot, but like I said at the beginning of the show, there are a lot of teams, at least 10, that are in this like 4.5 to 5 implied run total, and the Yankees are in that mix here at north of the top, or towards the top here. So I do think that people will go right back to the well on a guy like Aaron Judge, who had massive ownership yesterday, like 60% owned in cash games, and didn't really do much with that. I think that you're going to really have to pick and choose your spots of guys who are over 4K today. You might be able to get one in there if you're going to go up and pay up for a pitcher today. So that's kind of how things work. I don't know if Judge is that dude today. I understand you can go off against anybody, but yeah, I think that, I guess I'm a little bit, I think it could go a lot of ways here, but, at least dating back to last year, did see some tendencies, like the ISO is higher to righties, and the tendency for hard contact was there. Still good ground ball stuff from Varland against righties, though, so maybe that helps a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. I think I'm going to stay away from the Judge stuff. I'm not all that interested, in all honesty. I think it's okay, but it's nothing great. And yeah, if people decide to use their ownership there, I think there are way, way, way better spots to use your ownership on. You have this Mets stack that feels very good today. You have a good St. Louis team who once again finds themselves in a really good spot. I honestly could even see myself. I'd rather spend that money of paying up for a hitter. I'd rather spend it on paying up for like Otani or something. And we'll get to that spot. But even though
Yep.
it's just like a one off for me, like I think that's a good spot. So I don't know. I
Well,
just see better spots today.
I could name 5 teams before I even sniff the Yankees, maybe even more.
Yeah.
It's just a loaded day. So again, you are taking a risk on a guy that you don't have much of a major league sample size for. So kind of saw that play out last night. We'll talk about the game way later, but outside of one super chalky Manny Machado home run, which probably cost us the slate yesterday, uh, San Diego was shut down hard, and we'll talk about them later. But again, taking risks on guys with low sample sizes is a perfect example of why we just play the known.
For sure. Definitely.
Okay. Let's talk about the other side. Do you have any interest in Nestor today? Think that he can lock this team down a little bit more?
Well, I mentioned in the get-go, I like Nestor. I think it's okay for tournaments. I don't really want to overload on this play. I just think there's upside against a Minnesota team that isn't very good against lefties. I will say they loaded up the lineup with righties today, so yeah, they're not good against lefties, but that many right-handed hitters against a lefty, they usually find a way to get some runs up. So I don't know. It'd be kind of hard for Nestor to pay off this price tag, considering he's not striking out guys a whole lot. But we know that Nasty Nestor can come out of nowhere and throw 10 Ks, and we've seen that type of situation before. So wouldn't be shocked to see it again. And I think it's just an okay spot. Nothing more, nothing less.
Yeah, I'm not gonna spend much time on the Twins today. Although I will say, like, if we find that Garlick's in the lineup, don't be surprised if he's gonna get some ownership here. I know he'll probably be super cheap. So, actually, I don't even have him in the actual player pool. So maybe I'm missing something here. But yeah, it is. Oh, there it is. Yeah, he's 2,300 on DraftKings. So, yeah, I don't know. Maybe I think this game is a little bit overhyped for what it is at this moment.
Yeah, for sure.
Don't really want too much here from the prop side of things, so I'm happy to move on if you are. I think we can talk about this next team, which is we're going to talk about for a little bit. So
yeah, I don't even think we need to move over to Prize Pick screen. I think we can just move on to the next game.
Yep. So Cleveland, Washington is at this other 7:05 p.m. window right now. The Guardians are coming in as a -158 money line favorite here behind Cal Quantrill. Trevor Williams for the Nationals +134 at home. 9.5 is the total here. One of the only games sitting at this 9.5. We have a lot of 9 numbers on the game totals today. And that is there for a few reasons. Number one, the weather is pretty good here. I know that there's rain mixing in very late. And then the stadium should be just outside of the band of weather. So I think that this game should play through just fine, especially with the new rules for timing purposes. Winds 78, or sorry, that'd be insane. Temperatures 78 degrees, winds blowing out 8 to 10 miles an hour. So good hitting weather. And we've seen Trevor Williams just be pretty exploitable to start the season. This Guardians team comes in technically as the number one implied live total with 5.3. Problem is, I only like a couple bats here. So I'm kind of curious to see if you feel the same way.
In terms of only liking a couple bats, yeah, I think I feel the same.
Yeah,
I think I feel the same way. I'm not necessarily wanting to overload here, but I like the J-Ram spot. I think it's really good. I think there's a lot of steal upside here. This Cleveland team has been the number one team in the MLB when it comes to stolen bases so far this season. They've been leading that charge. They've been super aggressive on the base paths, and I think that should continue today. Keibert Ruiz behind home plate doesn't provide a lot of defensive help when it comes to that. Yeah. And it's not like Trevor Williams has an overpowering fastball either. So Jose Ramirez, Steven Kwan, Ahmad Rosario, I think, is another decent option. In terms of stolen base upside, is really not just saying like top plays, but stolen base upside. All three of those guys definitely have it. Andre Jimenez as well. I think it's really Ahmed Rosario and Jose Ramirez. I think righty-lefty doesn't really matter a whole lot against Trevor Williams. I think it's more of, are you a good hitter or not? He's not real. I mean, like, his split data is all over the place. You look this year, small sample size, but he's much worse against righties. You look last year, he's much worse against lefties. You look the year before that, it's kind of almost an even split. So it's really tough to try to base your plays in this game off of splits. I think you should just be taking talented batters who are hitting the ball well right now. I guess Jose Ramirez, it's kind of a question mark. He's getting on base really well. I don't know if you can say he's necessarily hitting the ball well. He's seeing the ball well. But I think Ahmad Rosario is seeing the ball well. Has gotten on base in 5 out of the last 6 games. Had the home run in the last game against the Yankees. So, I think he is seeing the ball really well, and I do kind of want a righty in that situation, especially a righty that can steal bases. So I like the Rosario play quite a bit, and you're getting him for a really cheap price tag. That's what I forgot to mention. What I think his price tag on FanDuel right now is
Yeah.
it's like 2,500 for a 2-hole hitter. I'll take the savings any day.
Yeah, Rosario is one of my favorite bats on the board, just in general on this whole slate. And it's mostly because of price, but it also is just a really really good spot for him overall. And you want to get to him when he's on a tear and he's able to actually, run the base paths and guys hit behind him. Uh, I think that this is a spot where I feel like people will be a little bit confused to roster some of these bats. And I think maybe Ramirez is outside the cusp of where that 3,500 and above batter falls into place here for you on FanDuel. So I'm a little bit worried about just how much he could bring to the table in that regard. I feel like there's kind of a couple slam dunk plays up in the 4K range, but you need to make sure those go right for you. So I think I would be interested. I feel like, though, I'm going to be a little bit what am I trying to say here? I feel like I'm going to be a little bit lower on this team compared to how high their implied total is, if that makes any sort of sense.
Yeah, I would agree. I'm right there with you.
I don't think this is maybe in tournaments you can make cases, obviously, but I don't think this is a load up on one team type of scenario. You might even be rostering bats from 4 different teams.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, especially on
Maybe
a
5.
slate with 12 games, like there's not really, especially on a slate with 12 games where there's so many offenses that are viable. It doesn't really become a slate where I think you should be. I think 4-man stacks are almost impossible to make today. Like
Everything's
3-man
got to go
stack.
right.
Yeah, exactly,
4
exactly.
home runs is what you need.
Yeah,
So
you need probably 15 plus from each player is what I would say. Uh,
yeah,
that's not an easy number to get. You get the home run, that's 18. 15 is still a lot.
right. Echo, what's going on, Rocky? Hope you ever having a good Friday, everybody. If you are watching and you don't want to comment, that's totally fine. But if you guys have any questions or comments about anything we're talking about, feel free to drop them in here. We go through DFS first, and then we go and talk about props for each game that we kind of like. And I think we can go ahead and move over to the Washington side of things, where we have Cal Quantrill, who this season has an xFIP of 6.36. The K rate's way down to righties. Definitely has some decent ground ball stuff against lefties. Like, I think the lefties are not going to be necessarily in the greatest of spots here, but there are some guys, Cal Quantrill is the definition of like average pitcher. So
Yeah.
do we have any interest with some of these Washington bats where they'll be pretty criminally owned here?
No, I don't think so. I mean, if you have any interest, go for it. But I'm not. Oh, it's a large slate. You have savings elsewhere. It's not like we're playing this team for savings. The last thing I want to
Right.
do is game stack a game on a 12 game slate.
Oh,
We
yeah,
just
I know.
yeah.
Yeah, no, I feel that. Again, there are like 10 offenses that are awesome today. So
For
the
sure.
Nationals probably won't rank out as that. The one thing I wanted to see, I mean, I'm cool with looking at a Jose Ramirez spot for fantasy scores. It looks like we might not get anything for him right now, unless I'm missing it. Oh yeah, that's because Jose has the accent on it. So, they have 8.5 fantasy scores. All right, I think I can get behind that. What do they have for Ahmed here? 7. I like the Ahmed Rosario play. I think 7's a good spot to get him at. I kind of don't want to go further than that though.
Yeah, I would agree. I like Ahmed Rosario 7 fantasy score. I think that gives you room for the stolen base upside. He's hit it in 4 of his last 5. He's averaging 10 over. He's averaging 10 over his last 5 too. Like I like both of these guys' fantasy scores. Trying to get that action with the stolen base upside is mainly what I'm looking at for this team, considering how aggressive they are. And so same thing for J-Ram. Jose Ramirez over 8.5 hitter fantasy score is definitely really solid too.
All right, hitter fantasy score. Thank you, Jay. What's going on, man? Hopefully some of these plays help. Rocky, our Astros bats the move tonight. We're gonna get to the Astros here. They do rank in that huge chunk of teams that potentially have some blow up spots. So let's go ahead and move on to the next window of games. We have another spot that I'm really intrigued to talk to you about. Tampa and Toronto right now. Tampa Bay comes in as a minus 126 road favorite here behind Drew Rasmussen. Jose Barrios, Blue Jays plus 108 at home. 9 is the total here. First things first, I think, like, obviously, congrats to the Rays for trying to go as long as they did. I know that people are disappointed because they lost the game due to a pitcher getting hurt. But that is what it is, and now we get the spot for Drew Rasmussen here, who's going to be one of the more expensive pitchers on this slate. I think there's a pretty clear pitcher that is the best today, and I don't think it's Drew Rasmussen. So let's start there.
Yeah, I like the Drew Rasmussen spot. Maybe he's not the best. This Rays team still has they're still unbeaten though. They won yesterday.
Did they win?
Yeah.
Well, congratulations.
Yeah. Still alive, 13-0. I want them to lose so badly. I guess I haven't talked to you about this yet. And, the great thing about an earlier podcast is the fact that we can kind of talk sports a little bit more too. I think I was telling my buddy this, who's a big Red Sox fan. I think I hate the Rays more than I hate the Red Sox this year. I think because of how non-competitive that Red Sox team is. I think it'd be like you saying, like, I don't know, who's a central team that you would hate more than the Cubs.
Well, the Cardinals have taken that lately. But,
I guess so, but it's kind of similar, except the Rays, I think, are better than the Cardinals, at least at this point in the season. Like, this Rays team, I hate this team so much. I want them to lose so badly, and they can't seem to do it. And I don't think they're going to lose today. Just bringing this back to a DFS realm, Drew Rasmussen has done pretty well against this Toronto team. There's lots of upside here. This Toronto team looks lost, in all honesty. And the fact that Chapman could potentially not be in the lineup today due to that illness tag is huge. That's their best hitter on the board. And to lose him on top of everyone else being ice cold, I mean, to only put up 1 run yesterday against Spencer Turnbull, baseball more than any other sport is all about being why is it skipping my head? It's all about being hot. Like, it's all about having good bats. It's all about seeing the ball well. If you're in a bad mentality in terms of that, you're not going to do well. And even before the 1-run game yesterday, the day before, it's not like they were hitting all that well against that Detroit team. It was a Detroit series.
Let down after let down lately.
And in your home opener too. Like, there's something, I'm not going to say wrong necessarily, but like, this feels off. So like, I think this Toronto team is ice cold. I'm willing to go to a pitcher against them. I like Drew Rasmussen, man. I think the spot is solid. He is, I found this stat the other day, and maybe I can, while you're talking a little bit here, I can try to go find where I found it. But Drew Rasmussen currently leads the league in pitches per inning, meaning he has the least amount of pitches per inning. I think he's around 11, and the next closest to him is at like 13, which is insanity. That is such a ridiculous discrepancy between those two numbers. I'll go try to find that, who is second place. But all I know is he's been a stud. He's been super efficient. If he's efficient in this start, he has a chance to go deep. And I think he can be against Toronto. I guess if Spencer Turnbull can do it, I imagine that Drew Rasmussen might be able to.
Right. I mean, so this season stats definitely need to be considered here. Last 30 days specifically. 2.27 xFIP. The carry rate's above 32%. Not allowing hard contact anywhere. Ground ball rate to lefties is really good, although I don't think they're going to roll too many out. I guess they're going to roll like 3 or 4, considering that they'll have to replace the Chapman stuff, potentially. I just think that he brings a lot to the table here, and we've talked about Ray's pitching just ultimately changing everybody that they have on their roster right now. And some people, I guess I'll give like the red, not really a red flag, but he has, given up 3 hits and 2 starts total, but those 2 teams are Washington and Oakland, so there's that. But again, if this Toronto team's cold, the Rays are hot, I think it should kind of work out in his favor here. So I still think that he's probably the second or third best pitcher, just pound for pound on the slate in total. But I still think that you can, you're going to have to make the case for DraftKings if you're going to want to roster 2 guys.
Yeah, for sure. I think there's certainly upside here, and I don't mind it. By the way, I found that stat. Yes, he leads the league. He has 11.4 pitches per inning. Next closest is Kyle Freeland, who has 13 pitches per inning, 13.02. So
it's going to change soon.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously a limited sample size, but like if he's being efficient to start out the year, this Toronto team has been so bad. And kind of just referring to your question, John, in talking about Vlad being 30 out of 35 or around the 30-35 range in terms of ADP on daily drafts, he hasn't had the power this season is the main problem with him right now. Uh,
Single, single
lots of
machine.
singles, single machine. In fact, leads the after yesterday. I think he leads the league in singles right now with 19, and so the power just isn't there right now. So I understand there's upside, but you're not taking him against this Tampa Bay team when they have such solid pitching. Even if Rasmussen struggles, you're just going to see that you're just going to see the top of the bullpen, and it's just going to be a struggle spot for them.
Yeah. Not much interest in Toronto bats, so I think we'll just kind of call that one. Because if we're going to be high on Rasmussen, then I think that's pretty safe to say. So I'm probably off of that. Varsho has just been awful, man. Like I don't know what's going on with him, but anyway though, we can go ahead and move on to the other side and talk about these Tampa Bay Ray hitters, who I actually do want to talk about here, because Jose Barrios, while the xFIP is certainly improved over the last 30 days, I mean, I think that we can take a really hard look at some of these lefties specifically and feel pretty good about the spot. I know that Randy Rosarina also has pretty good BVP as well, but I want to start the conversation out with a guy that's going to be over 4K on FanDuel, and it's Brandon Lowe. I think that's he at 4,100 today. Obviously, you're paying a huge premium for him. Maybe you get some prop discounts here, but this spot for him lines up pretty fantastically. So, are you interested in the Brandon Lowe spot?
Yeah, very interested. I want bats here. Maybe that, not maybe it does. It definitely has improved in terms of his xFIP overall being at 3.29. Just remember that xFIP is very much a number based out of just seeing walks and strikeouts, and that's it, and like home runs and hit. Like, it's pitcher dependent stats, but what it doesn't take into account is some of the other stats that we look at. Like, he only has a 9% soft contact rate right now, which is ridiculously low. Anything
Yeah.
below 10% is a serious issue for a pitcher. His hard contact's all the way up to 45%, which is going to be a serious issue. 58% against righties right now. Yes, the Ks are there, but you got to remember that this is a completely different offense that brings a lot of power to them. So I like Randy Rosarina. I think that's solid. I think Brandon Lowe's solid. I
Mhm.
think Wander Franco's solid. All these bats are solid. It's just, are you willing to pay these price tags, I think, at the end of the day? And I do draw a little bit of a question around that because these are some pretty expensive price tags. This is a stack where if you get 3 or 4 of them, it's going to break your bank a little bit. But I think that getting someone like Brandon Lowe is definitely solid, and he's been on fire against righties, so it's hard not to like the play.
Massive discount on DraftKings, 4,300. Feel like that's where you should be starting your build today. Shortstop Wander Franco is 5,900. So just to give you a little bit of insight there, it's really expensive. So I think this could be a Brandon Lowe solo, just one-off play, potentially. And we'll talk about the props for this team here momentarily. But yeah, to John's question here, I did write up Brandy Rosarina as a guy that has BVP. He certainly does, and he's sitting 500 against Jose Barrios, with the majority of them being singles. So if you want to go that route, I think that there is a single prop on Underdog, but probably would always lean towards those fantasy numbers for Randy specifically. Now we can go probably look at this for Brandon Lowe. That's kind of disappointing. They only give him a run right now. That means they're scared on Prize Picks. And then on Underdog, it doesn't even look like there's anything listed. So
yeah, scared.
Yep. If there anything comes up for Brandon Lowe, you should take it.
Yeah, I would agree. I'm right there with you.
Wander.
In the meantime, Wander's okay at 8.5 hitter fantasy score. That is certainly high. Randy Rosarina, honestly, rather take his hits, runs, RBIs rather than the hitter fantasy score. But I think either or. I think both are okay. Yandy Diaz also at 7 with his hitter fantasy score. I think that's just fine. I don't think anything's right up worthy though. Like, I'm not getting excited. Well, no.
I like Randy.
Yeah, you can leave the Randy play. I mean, that one's fine. I think other than that, though, unless they listed like a Brandon Lowe option, yeah, there's probably nothing else that I would want.
Yeah, if you get Brandon Lowe around the 8 or 8.5 number, I think that's really strong. It feels high, but he's in a very, very good spot today.
For sure.
Okay. Are you interested in anything Rasmussen-wise, or just want to stay away from it from a proper perspective?
I like over 28.5 pitcher fantasy score. I think that
Yeah.
is extremely low.
What's up
I
with the strikeout number?
I know. Well, we've been getting this all year, haven't we? We've been getting this low number all year, and it's a little bit confusing as to why. It feels a little fishy, but I
Yeah.
think he should be able to hit it here, man. So I don't know. I like it a lot. I like the pitcher fantasy score the most. I think I'm not gonna say in the bag. Nothing is in the bag, especially with MLB. But I feel more so than I would usually that this Rays team has a very good chance at winning. And you also have Barrios at 25.5 pitcher fantasy score. I really like the under there. I wrote up both of those plays on my stream. I think both of them are really solid. I think I really like Rasmussen to get the win and get a quality start. And if he does both of those things, then he's he's 40% of the way there, a little bit less, or
Yeah.
a little bit less than 40%, but still, he's a big chunk of the way there if he just gets both of those.
I like the fantasy score quite a bit.
Yeah.
I think that I have no idea why the strikeout number is where it is. So maybe they know something we don't, but it feels very, very low. So I think that Rasmussen fantasy score is really nice. So I'll gladly take that. For what it's worth, Underdog has the strikeout at 5 even.
Interesting. I wonder what the books have it at.
Yeah, I would be able to tell you actually really quickly.
Yeah.
Bear with me here. I'm trying to get my voice corrected as well with this call.
Oh, good.
Yeah, let me just pull up our Run Good Props dashboard here and let you guys know. Let's see. Drew Rasmussen. Looks like there's a few books, like specifically Pinnacle has it at 4.5 with the over probability of 53%. Minus 127 for pitcher strikeouts.
Yeah, very interesting when it's that. I don't know. I don't understand the number, but I think it's good to attack.
Yeah, I agree too. All right, let's go ahead and let's move on. Move on to this LA and Boston game. Right now, the Angels are going to come in as a minus 118 road favorite behind Patrick Sandoval, Tanner Houck for the Red Sox plus 100 at home. 9 is the total here. We teased it a little bit about this Angels squad. They are at the tail end of like the teams that are grouping. Both of these teams actually have a 4.6 implied run total. The weather for this game going to have winds in from right field, and it's a little bit more chilly on this part of the East Coast. So, what are we doing with these Angels today?
Yeah, I don't think I'm really interested a lot. Tanner Houck has been okay. He has struggled a little bit against the lefties, so I kind of really like this Shohei spot. There's a lot of upside there. You have the pesky pullout in right field, which means that that's a pretty easy spot to get a home run if you're able to truly pull the ball. I like the upside for what Shohei brings to the table. Plus, I think he's rested up, isn't he? Like I think the last time he ended up playing was it was when he pitched, I think. Maybe. Yeah, he hasn't batted in like 3 days or 2 days. So has had a little bit of rest time to get rested up, and I think there's a lot of solid upside with Shohei today. So that's a spot that I like.
Yeah. Other than that, I'm probably off of it a little bit. Like obviously, you can always consider Mike Trout. He's been a little bit on a cold streak. I mean, 11 at bats is not really a cold streak for Mike Trout, but
no.
He didn't perform against Washington very well, as I guess I will just make that point. But these bats are expensive today. You're gonna need them to massively go off for you. I don't know. I just don't see it in the cards in terms of like them putting up a 10-run thing off of Tanner today.
Last time I was in Fenway, I watched this Angels team play, and Mike Trout hit a home run in the first inning. We played Mike Trout that day too. So I don't know. I'm not there today, so I don't think he hits one.
Yeah, I just think that there's a lot of guys in the 4K range that you need to get right. Like we said, I'll take Brandon Lowe over that.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, there are going to be spots on this slate where we just skip over stuff, and I think that this is part of that. Patrick Sandoval going up against the Boston Red Sox bats. I don't know. I mean, they don't. Yeah, I'm just not like super excited about both of these teams. I understand that Boston was playing in a dangerous territory when the season started, where they're giving up a bunch of runs and scoring a bunch of runs. But now they lost Duvall, and a lot of things have started to go downhill in that regard a little bit. So I'm not really interested in Justin Turner. They've elected to not not have Ruff Snyder lead off, and he's going to be hitting third today. I don't know. I'm not falling in love with anything from Boston here either. I think I respect what Sandoval brings to the table in terms of his ground ball rate, and maybe you can make cases for guys that don't strike out and don't hit the ball on the ground, but there's not going to be too many of those today.
Yeah, I would tend to agree. Not all that excited about this spot. I think the one guy that I could get behind is Justin Turner. Has a little bit of BVP that you can go off of, and I think the spot is solid. I mentioned that 0 for 18 hitting streak, and then all of a sudden he turned the lights on and has been going absolutely ballistic over the past couple days. So I think that could potentially continue against a lefty here, but I think it's just okay. It's not a spot that like I want to load up on or anything.
Yeah, I mean, I think people might play him because of his price tag. Um, he's okay. I think he's very close to another guy that I want to talk about later. But in terms of props, though, for this game, I don't have much to say about it. Do you have anything that sticks out to you? Is there a Turner number you like?
He's at 7 for his fantasy score. I don't mind that, but that's about it. Other than that, I think the board is kind of meh. I think Otani is okay, but I think you're paying a lot for this spot at 8.5 hitter fantasy score. So probably my favorite would be Turner at that 7 number.
Okay. Nothing right up worthy though, right?
No, not at all.
Okay. Go ahead and move on to the next game here. Baltimore and Chicago. Right now, the Orioles are minus 112 on the road behind Tyler Wells. Mike Clevenger for the White Sox here, minus 104 at home. 9 is the total for this game. Weather in the south side of Chicago, a guaranteed rate field, 75 degrees, winds blowing in from left at 9 to 10 miles an hour. Just enough for me to kind of say, like, we pump the brakes a little bit on this spot, even though everything else kind of looks nice. I was going to start off right away and say, we have a lot of offenses on this slate, and I know that they kind of were frustrating to a certain extent yesterday, but Baltimore still ended up putting up 8 runs against Oakland, and then obviously Adley kept his hitting streak alive. He gets this spot against Clevenger, who I think has just completely fallen off the rails, at least to start the season, and there's enough sample size here to say that I think that you can attack this Baltimore team today, even with the wind.
Yeah, I guess. I don't think it's great or anything. Do you just like lefties here, like Rutschman?
Lefties.
Yeah,
Yeah.
lefties only. I guess
I
Adley
think
would be
it's
an okay one-off, but I don't think I'd go much farther than that, at least for me.
yeah. I'm not on the Mountcastle stuff. I feel like we've talked about that all week. Not really on Santander either. He's gone through this kind of, I think he has a back issue right now, so that's been affecting his performance. Cedric Mullins finally cracked a cold streak just yesterday, and so I think it is just Adley here. Maybe he's considering one of your one-offs, but it's really expensive. So, like, I think this is more of a prop conversation if we can get into that as this game goes on. But I think you're off of it for DFS because it is so expensive.
Yeah, that's another thing for sure is that you're certainly paying up quite a bit to get your exposure here.
But I do think that they can beat up on Clevenger. It just might be from like 1 or 2 guys, and I'm not really banking on like rostering Adam Frazier or even like Gunnar Henderson today.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. We'll talk about Adley fantasy in a second, but I want to bring up the other side here where we have Wells coming in with a 4.58 xFIP this season. The K rate's around 20%. Ground ball stuff's really good to lefties, allowing a very high hard contact. All the 24 plate appearances. I mean, 63%. It still means that like 15 to 16 bats that he's faced against have had hard contact produced against him. And you're going to get a lot of righties today in this lineup. So does anything stand out to you from that aspect, even with the wind blowing in?
Not really. I'm not all that excited about playing the White Sox. I think this is just an okay stack at best, but maybe like an Eloy Jimenez spot. But other than that, like I just can't see myself really getting behind this team.
Yeah, we just like White Sox usually against lefties. So it's kind of where we'll stand on that today. Just wanted to search the Adley stuff. 8 hitter fantasy score. I'd feel better if it was at 7.5. Honestly, I think it's okay. I don't think it's right up worthy.
Yeah, I would agree.
Okay, let's go ahead and move on. Talk about the next game, Atlanta and Kansas City. Should be a very interesting conversation around these Atlanta plays today. Right now, the Braves are minus 132 behind Charlie Morton. Road favorites, Brady Singer, Royals plus 112 at home. The total sits here at 9, and we saw some of these Royals go off the past couple days. It looks like Vegas and some of the people I've heard chatting around the industry today are really on this Atlanta Braves stuff. And you being the best guy to talk about the Brady Singer spot is going to be a good thing to have for us today in our back pocket. So, Kauffman Stadium, 78 degrees, winds blowing out to left at 14 to 16 miles an hour. What side of the Brady stuff are you on today?
Kind of back and forth a little bit, but I think that at the end of the day, you should be at least considering your bats here, especially a guy like Acuna, who's in a pretty good spot overall. We saw Singer be pretty shut down against righties last year, but at the end of the day, he's not really striking them out to the extent that you'd really want him to this season. And with that being the case, I could see Acuna getting on base, getting stolen bases. I could see the spot working out for him. I don't mind Matt Olson, who's just been hitting really well in that 2-hole. He looks really solid recently.
Yep.
I don't think I'm necessarily all in or anything. Like, I don't think the Singer spots have been all that bad to start out the year. I know that blow-up spot against the Giants is really what's affecting his overall. And then you have a matchup against Toronto, which was a tough team at the beginning of the season. I don't know. You're kind of 50-50 here, but I'm kind of 50-50 here. I think Atlanta's okay. I don't think they sniffed the top 5 today, though.
No, but the data is going to show that the team total is up in the top 5. So again, lots of huge offenses today. I would like Matt Olson the most. Last year the ISO was a lot higher to lefties, and he was able to give a lot more hard contact up there. And Matt Olson, I believe, ranks 5th or 6th in the MLB in terms of batted balls hit so far this year. So he's currently feeling it. Rocky asks Olson over 1.5 hits, runs, RBI. I can get behind that because I think Acuna will find his way on base continuously here.
Yeah, I think that's okay. I think that's solid.
All right. I'm just not as high on Atlanta. I think that people will play Ronald Acuna today, and I think that's probably a bad use of your money on a DFS site.
Ooh, sorry for the yawn. My bad.
Yeah, he's 6,500 on DraftKings. Like, what are we doing here? It's ridiculous.
Yeah, well, I think here's the thing. Like, you're going to pay up for a pitcher today. You really have to make the decision of what your pay up offense going to be. Is it going to be Tampa Bay, or is it going to be an Atlanta team, a Yankee team? There's several teams in contention for it. I would say it's pretty clearly Tampa Bay. So I don't really think that, when you compare Singer to Barrios, give me bats against Barrios most of that time.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I still think we're 2 or 3 teams out from talking about completing some of these other things. So I still think the Braves are solid, although I think it's just 1 or 2 guys, and that guy is probably Matt Olson.
And remember, with implied totals, like, the reason that the Braves are in the top 5, yes, they are 0.1 run from being out of the top 5 too. So, and not, this isn't for you, obviously. This is for like the people. I know you know this, but it's something for people to realize. Like, the small differences between implied run totals just means that they're pretty similar offenses. In all honesty, at least in regards to their matchups today.
I agree. Also, just shout out Vaughn Grissom is going to be in the starting lineup today.
Yeah,
all the way at the bottom, but he's going to be replacing Orlando Arcia for a while. So he's back in our lives. Don't be surprised if he puts on a show the next week or so.
That'll be cool. I'm excited for that.
We got the order for the Blue Jays. Chapman is playing today.
Oh, damn. That kind of sucks. But that's fine. I still like the Rasmussen spot.
All right. Anything for props for this game outside of the Matt Olson stuff? I think that's probably where we'd stop.
Yeah, and I don't even think
we should talk about. Sorry, we should talk about the Royals quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah, Charlie Morton 4.18, K rate 27%. dating back to last season. I guess the one thing I wanted to at least just bring up here is like the fact that Bobby Witt has um, such an elite stolen base rate so far. If he gets on base, you'd have to think that he's good enough to get these fancy numbers if he has any.
Yeah, if he gets on base is the biggest thing. I think if you
All
want
right.
anything here, you want lefties. I think MJ Melendez might actually be solid if he's not going to strike out, which it doesn't seem like Charlie holds that same power of strikeout prowess that he used to. Currently, the K rate's at 13% this year. You could really see Melendez get some work done. You could see Vinny Pasquantino get some work done here. No guys that I would take in DFS outside of GPP lineups, but Vinny probably makes a really good GPP option, honestly.
I like like the top three in this lineup. And outside of that, it kind of falls off after. But we know
Yeah.
Morton is susceptible sometimes to lefties, and I don't know. I don't mind it, and I think we've seen Kansas City just come up and ruin some people's days. The one thing that stands out to me there, though, on the prop side, is that Bobby Witt's got a 9.5 fantasy score on underdog, and on Prize Picks it sits at 7. I know
Sheesh,
the
man.
stolen base number is lower by 1 point, but that is not enough in terms of like I think there's better value on Prize Picks there with that number.
I would agree. Also, Sean Murphy is like one of the best defensive catchers in the league. So I know Bobby Witt's had a lot of success. He's also been picking on shitty catchers too. Like if you see where his steals are, he got one against, I don't think Alejandro Kirk caught this game where he got one against Toronto. I think that steal was against their backup catcher. Who is their backup against Danny Jansen, who's far worse defensively. I might be wrong there though. In Texas, getting it against Jonah Himes, I mean Himes okay, but like he's not elite in terms of some other guys. So just be careful with how you attack the stolen base stuff.
Yeah. All right. That's it for this game. I think we should move on and talk about a team that could be controversial and see what side we're on with it. So Texas and Houston's going to be next. Rangers plus 144 behind Martin Perez, and then the Astros are going to be coming in here as a minus 172 home favorite behind Luis Garcia. 8.5 is the total here. The Battle of Texas lives on. I think that just to start out here, I know that we respect a lot of what Martin Perez brings to the table, but these teams have faced off well enough, or just enough times to say like, hey, maybe we should take a closer look at some of these Houston bets today. I'm not sure how you feel about that, but they do rank higher on my list than where they probably sit for a lot of people.
Where do they rank on your list? That's my question.
Oh, 3, 4.
Three. That high in the top five?
Yeah, yeah.
I guess the highest I'd be willing to put them is five. Martin is still really good.
Oh, I know. That's the problem.
Not
Like
really good.
I think I'm talking myself into playing a team against an above average pitcher. The
That's
problem
never
is
fun.
that like there are so many righties that hit him well, and even like Kyle Tucker has some really good historics too. And we got a spot now where we have Chas McCormick leading off. So I think that that's an interesting spot for DFS purposes. But it comes back to like you're playing a team that is really good historically against an above average pitcher. So I'm not sure exactly where to lean there, but I do like them.
Yeah, I think the Chaz spot is really solid. I wish he wasn't so expensive. I mentioned it on my stream how he's just been seeing the ball extremely well to start out the year. So I like the McCormick spot. People keep saying this stuff about Kyle Tucker. I understand the BVP is there for Kyle Tucker, but still, lefty on lefty
Yes.
with Martin Perez is still incredibly tough. I don't buy into it. It's a pretty limited sample size too, with only 14 at bats. So if
Yeah.
y'all want to buy into it, I'll definitely. I've been wrong before. I could be wrong again. So I'm not on the Kyle Tucker spot. Instead, I'll pivot to someone else who has been just kind of meh against Martin Perez. I'll pivot to Alex Bregman. Has 8 hits and 32 at bats against him. All of them singles. I think that changes today. He's been on fire recently. He's been turning it up. So I think this spot against Martin Perez is really good. I like the Bregman spot, and you're getting him for a pretty cheap price tag, all considering. The fact that we're getting Alex Bregman at 3,100 feels like a mistake, honestly.
he also has hit 2 home runs in the past 3 days.
Yeah.
So like he's feeling it, and that maybe was, like you said, a meh start to the first 10 days of the year. And yeah, this is really good. I think that I like the Bregman spot. Very close to another play that I want to talk about a little bit later on during like the night games. I also want to bring up my BVP play of the day. You want to take a guess at how gross this is? I think you can get it
I
right
know what
away.
it is. Martin fucking Maldonado.
Yeah, dude. Ex-Brewer. We love playing Martin Maldonado on DraftKings specifically because he's
Yeah, we know.
always dirt cheap as a catcher, and he just has the stuff today. I'm
No.
not saying it's a must play, but one of my favorite plays, and this is going to highlight something that we just talked about earlier today in our Discord, is we just partnered with Sleeper Picks. Just for those of you guys who are interested in jumping over there, they do something similar, but I think that their options are a lot more extensive than what Prize Picks is offering for baseball right now. Maybe that changes in the future, maybe it doesn't. But I was able to get a half. I was able to get a 0.5 hit number from Martin Maldonado today over there, and I think Prize Picks has a half base.
Yes, they
if
do.
I'm not mistaken. So I don't know, man. Just saying. I think that Martin Maldonado is a pretty good play.
Yeah, I already wrote up the Martin play on stream today at half a base. I like it. I can get behind it. There's solid data. Like that's Cecil. Like I shit on you for BVP plays a little bit, but that's a solid sample size. 20 at bats. We've seen it before. That's like 5 games worth of at bats essentially. Like that's a good sample size for BVP. That is something that I can totally get behind. So yeah, I love the Martin Maldonado spot, and I can almost guarantee you he will be in my DraftKings lineup tonight.
Yeah, hard to pass up on that. So I don't mind the 9-1-2. Think that having 3 Astros is probably the furthest you want to go, and maybe even 2 is the best.
Yeah, I think that you don't want to load up on this team, but I think getting 2 of them is definitely solid. And even one-offing with Martin is just fine in terms of getting some salary relief if you don't find a spot for any of these other hitters.
Right. Okay. Did you like anything with Chaz? Did you have anything on any prop sites? Oh, half a run.
No, half a run. That's it. So no thanks.
That's lame.
I'll
Okay.
yeah, super lame.
All right. He's a half single on underdog. It's not really the best on there. Okay. Let's talk about this other side here where we have the Luis Garcia spot going up against this Texas Rangers group of hitters. We know that Luis Garcia has, he doesn't have the best stuff for this team when comparing to the rest of the rotation, but the K numbers are around average, the ground ball rate a little below average. There are some things that we can look at here. I think that the Rangers certainly shouldn't be discounted. I know that Corey Seager not being in the lineup certainly hurts the team, but we do have a spot now where Josh Smith is hitting in the 2-hole, or at least projected to be, and that could be something of salary relief.
I don't know, man. You saw it yesterday. I kind of had the call where it's like this team is going to really struggle to score for a little bit. You know, losing that big of a piece in the lineup not only throws off obviously Corey Seager not being there, but it also throws off just everyone in the order because you're expecting this guy to come up and bat and get on base for you or either hit you in or whatever happens when Corey Seager gets up to bat. And to have a guy like Josh Smith instead is a huge detriment to the team. So I am just fine with staying away. If you wanted to take a one-off, you take a lefty, maybe a Nate Lowe, maybe a Josh Smith at a super cheap price tag. But I think I'm more than fine with staying away. And I even think there's some upside to this Luis Garcia spot today.
Okay. Would Garcia rank as an SP2 option? We haven't really talked about any SP2s today on DK. It's going to be hard to do that, and it may be even harder to pay up all the way for both. So does he rank for that for you today?
I think so. I think he's at least in the conversation for it.
All right. We kind of already covered everything for the prop side of stuff, so we'll go ahead and move on to the next game here, which is going to have a very enticing St. Louis spot. Right now, the Pittsburgh Pirates are coming in as a plus 134. Moneyline underdog behind Oviedo. Woodford for the Cardinals, minus 158 at home. 9 is the total for this game as well. The weather, 76 at first pitch. The wind's blowing out to left at 9 to 10 miles an hour. A little bit more of a right to left situation, but it is pushing out that direction. Let's talk about kind of the elephant in the room of the whole day. can we trust where these implied live totals are at? And specifically, are you high on the Cardinals again?
Yeah, I think that there's definitely some upside to this Cardinals team. I don't know if I'm necessarily as high as the implied live total would say, but we know that this is at least a halfway decent spot against Oviedo, at least for the lefties. Guys like Donovan, Burleson, Gorman, Carlson, Edmund, who are at the bottom of the lineup. They got a lot of lefties in here. They did a good job of it today. I think trying to get lefties is the way that I want to go, and specifically lefties that have a good ground ball rate. I really like this Burleson spot. I think that's a spot that I'm really interested in, and Gorman as well. This is kind of a savings stack for you if you need it today, and I don't mind going that direction.
Yeah, I think that's where I'd sit with St. Louis too. I'm not as high on the Goldschmidt Arenado spot today. I worry about maybe not so much with Nolan, but at least with Goldschmidt, like the ground ball rate being a problem. I don't know. I feel like again, you have so many 4K hitters today, just massive upside spots. I don't know if I'd want to do that with either of those guys today specifically. He does seem to not allow as much hard contact as some other pitchers on the slate.
Yeah, for sure.
On the other side here, Pittsburgh bats going up against Woodford. The xFIP dating back to last year, 4.93. The K rate, not good. Swinging strike rate, under 10%. Definitely a ground ball type of specialty for him, and not allowing too much hard contact here. Is this a spot where you're at least somewhat enticed anywhere?
Brian Reynolds? ? That's about it, though. I don't think I can really get on much else. I think the play is just okay. It's not great or anything. It's just a solid spot for him where I'll continue to attack his bat, and because I think he's been playing really well this season, and that's about it, though. And I'm not paying the price tag on FanDuel or even probably recommending a prop. I just think that if I would highlight anything here for Pittsburgh, it would obviously be Brian Reynolds.
He has cooled off a little bit in this Houston series, so maybe he gets back around to it. Didn't really play. He just got pinch hit, or he pinch hit for somebody yesterday. There's a 7 fantasy number, or 7.5. That's probably just something it won't make a 5 entry flex today.
For sure, I would agree.
All right. Any Cardinals things you like here? Like, obviously we're not talking any pitcher numbers, but you have Brandon Donovan with a run prop. That's kind of it. Tommy Edman at the bottom of the lineup has a hits, runs, RBIs. It's kind of barren.
Thanks. Yeah, no lefties on here. You mentioned the lefty props, but that's it for them, right? There's nothing else on Prize Picks, so not getting anything else on Prize Picks sucks, and I'll just stay away from it.
Yep. Okay. Let's go ahead and move on to the next game. We're entering the night window here. 4 more to go. New York Mets, Oakland Athletics. Right now, the New York Mets are coming in as a -225 massive road favorite behind Senga. Athletics, James Kaprielian, +188 at home. 8 is the total, and we saw this Oakland team going up against the Baltimore team during the day, and Baltimore being able to put up a lot of runs. I think this is a spot for the Mets where, I think we both agree that, number one, the reason the implied total is below a lot of teams today is because they play in this Oakland ballpark that's so big. But we love the spot here against James Kaprielian. He's can we confidently say, I know we used to say last year, but can we confidently bring it into 23 and say that he's arguably pound for pound like a bottom 5 pitcher in the league?
All-star, but yes, bottom 5 pitcher in the MLB.
Oh, yeah.
Is he an all-star? I don't think we figured that out.
Right?
I don't think
he's the guy that got elected.
Yeah. Well, I'll try to look it up while we're doing stuff. But yeah, not a very good pitcher. Hasn't been a very good pitcher this year. I think he continues to not be a good pitcher today. So yeah, he's had 2 tough matchups to face off against start out the year. Tampa Bay and Cleveland is certainly no easy task, but it's no easy task going up against this Mets team. So I have a lot of interest here. I guess where I have a little bit of hesitancy and where I could see this kind of screwing you over is the fact that this Mets team is so generally cold right now. They have not been hitting the ball well to start out the year. Everyone in the lineup is under 100 weighted runs created above average when facing off against a right-handed pitcher that has had more than 10 plate appearances, which is insanity. I mean, like, for this Mets team that spends so much money should not be a problem. But I think this is where they turn it around. Caprillian's bad. This Oakland A's bullpen is bad, and Oakland finally gets to see a team that actually spends money on their players instead of their own home team.
Well, I think they've both technically have the same result in not winning a World Series. So
Oh,
who
wow.
knows if that's
Yeah.
actually the good strategy.
Yeah, I guess.
Anyway, though,
Uh,
yeah, that's
I
a dig at
think
the Mets. Sorry.
I think the MLB also knew what they were doing here. I think they knew what the storyline would be. Like, you're having the team with the highest payroll come into town, or one of the highest payrolls come into town against one of the lowest payroll teams on a weekend series and everything too. I don't know. It should be interesting.
Well, it's also a Senga spot where they're going to get attendance because it is on the West Coast, and you could potentially just see people flock to watch him in this game. I like the Mets offense, and I won't go off of anything more than what you just said. So let's go ahead and talk about Kodai Senga here, and if he is the best pitcher on the slate.
Yeah, I think far and away the best pitcher on the slate. I don't think there's really an option here other than Kodai Senga. You can mess around with the Drew Rasmussens and the Nestor Cortezes, but really at the end of the day, Kodai Senga comes in as the top option. The K rate looks really good. The walk rate is where he's struggling, but there's not a lot of guys that walk in this lineup anyway, so it shouldn't be too much of a problem for him. The swinging strike rate looks really good. Everything looks really good. That forkball looks like it's going to become like a legendary pitch in the MLB. That forkball is effing scary to watch, and is going to fool a lot of batters today. So I like the spot a lot for Senga. I think there's a lot of upside here, and I think it's a spot where you just pay up for him. You find a way to get him in your lineups today.
Yeah, I think that's pretty clear. Was very confused that people went Chris Bassey yesterday, so maybe they don't have it all together today. But I think it's pretty clear that he is just the best pitcher on the slate, bar none. And yeah, I don't have much else to say besides that. I think, again, like, this Mets team should roll. And if you're interested in going to sports betting route of things, right now FanDuel has a run line for the Mets of -1.5 with the -134. Like, that's normally not really a spot I would love to jump all over. I'd be actually more interested in, like, getting plus money on them winning by like a -2.5 run line instead. But yeah, I think that the Mets can turn it around today. This is the matchup they've been looking for.
For sure. Let's move over to props. Talk about that. I guess I'll start out with Senga and say I like this 37.5 pitcher fantasy score. I think that's solid. If you wanted to go to something else, I think that Nimmo hitter fantasy score is definitely good. Lindor hitter fantasy score. Vogelbach over a half a total base. All those props are really solid for this team. I guess Pete Alonso, Rocky mentioned it. Alonso over 1.5 hits, runs, RBIs. I think that's fine as well.
Yeah, I can get behind that too. What's the stuff for Senga? Does he have a fan? That's kind of high. How about strikeouts? 6 seems like a number that you'd be really upset at late at night.
I think I'm just fine with the pitcher fantasy score at 37. I mean, he's hit 43 in the first two, and I think the win is not guaranteed ever, but I think it's pretty close too. There's definitely a good shot at it today for him.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Let's go ahead and move on here. And obviously we're not targeting any Oakland bats, so let's go ahead and move on and discuss the last couple games on the slate here. Milwaukee, San Diego. Right now, Milwaukee is a +140 underdog behind Eric Lauer. Michael Wacha for the Padres -166. 8.5 is the total here. Seeing a lot of people on this Padres stuff again today. We talked about the spot yesterday where we didn't know who the pitcher was going to be, and it ended up being a guy that getting called up from AAA. He got rocked in the first inning by Manny Machado and then shut down the rest of the team after that. And so I know San Diego's got one of the higher implied live totals once again. I would say I'm more on board today on San Diego hitters than I was last night. So I guess let's just start there.
Really? I don't really like San Diego hitters.
Yeah, I don't think Lauer's figured it out yet this year. I think there's some platoon stuff still.
Yeah, maybe you might be right. I don't know. This Padres team hasn't really been good against lefties is my main problem. They have been struggling. And why does FanDuel have Freddie Peralta starting? That's not true, right? It's Lauer
It's
today.
not true.
Okay,
It's lower.
interesting. They'll have to update that. Maybe they already have it. I just need to refresh my page, but I'll do that later. Um, yeah, I don't. I guess I don't mind it if you wanted to go there. I think that they're out of my top five probably, or at the very bottom of my top five.
Yeah, they aren't posting any props anywhere for it. But Nelson Cruz has like some of the best BVP on the slate too. Not close to Martin levels, but it's there. Uh, Again, I just don't think Lauer has figured it out yet this season, and the hard contact given up. And this is a good sample size. It's 41, and he's given up hard contact over 50% of that number. So I don't know. I think that there's something here. Maybe it's just a one-off of like Bogarts or something. But again, I think most of these guys are pretty priced up.
Yeah, it's just Bogart has been really bad against lefties. I mean, maybe it could definitely turn around today. I mean, it's been such a short sample size so far this season that it's only a matter of time. But yeah, I'm perfectly fine with staying away from them in cash. Let's talk about Milwaukee and talk about them against Waka.
Yeah, so I think this is where things are a little bit skewed. Like I think that they might not put up a massive amount of runs, but I feel like they can win this game against like as long as Lauer gets it together. I mean, I just feel like people are really, really hammering in on this Padres stuff and not talking at all about the Brewers. And I do think that you need to at least look at the fact that Michael Wacha has faced this Brewers team a lot, coming from the Cardinals, and we also know that he technically is a little bit more reverse splits. So maybe a Willie Adames, a Wilson, or a William Contreras. Yelich and Tellez have been hitting the ball pretty well over the last week or so, and maybe you can talk about those guys. But I think it's Adames for me. But yeah, nothing like super crazy that I want to talk about. But where do they rank for you?
Not even top five. Probably not even
No,
like
they're
top
not
eight.
top five. They're probably
Not
like
even.
number 8 or 9.
Yeah, sure. I think that's fine. I'll just stay away from it. I believe in Walker. I believe in that bullpen. I'm happy to. I believe in the ballpark too. So like, there's just
Right.
not much for me to love.
Exactly. I
Yeah.
think that's a good way to put it. All right.
Yeah.
I think I'm not really interested in looking at anything. Talked about in my article today, Juan Soto was a guy we could take a look at, but the props are kind of just I don't know. It's just not enticing as much as I'd like it to be.
Yeah. I think we can just move along here.
All right. Last two games on the slate, Colorado and Seattle is next. Right now, the Rockies are plus 146 behind Austin Gomber. Marco Gonzalez, Mariners minus 174 at home. 8.5 is the total here, and this is going to be one of the stacks that I know many people probably won't agree with, and the ballpark's not going to really help this, but I really like what the Seattle team brings to this Gomber spot.
Yeah, I think it's okay. I'm not going to say it's great, but I know the upside is there. Problem is, T-Mobile Park, the most pitcher-friendly park in all of baseball over
Yep.
the past 3 years. This is a incredibly pitcher-friendly ballpark. Everything goes down. Walks or hits, first singles, doubles, triples, home runs, everything. So even strikeouts go up in this park for some reason. Especially so, it's just hard for me to get behind this stack in cash. I think in tournaments, it is a great tournament spot. It's probably one of the better tournament spots on the slate because no one else is going to go here. But yeah, I'm just worried about the overall upside.
I just think that there are some murderers against lefties in this lineup. Even I know Julio struck out a lot to start this season. I think he can turn it around tonight. I really like the 2-3-4 though the most. Ty France, Eugenio Suarez, Teoscar Hernandez. I think all those guys are awesome plays, and we know what AJ Pollock can do against the lefty as well. Just got to find guys that can elevate the ball and don't hit ground balls. So I think that there are a few of them in here, mainly Suarez, Hernandez, and even Cal Raleigh, I think, can get on board now. I named a lot of them, so maybe it's the 3-4 that I'm really focused on.
Yeah, I like Julio. I think Julio's solid. Outside of that, I guess I like Ty France up here, but that's about it. Cal Raleigh too, I guess, is okay. If I were to go with a 3-man stack, that would probably be the 3-man stack.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I don't have much more to add on to that other than I think that I'm a lot higher on Seattle than most people probably would be. Julio fancy numbers, it's at 8. Like it's in play. It's not the best. Eugenio Suarez 1.5 hits, runs, RBIs is something that I can get behind. I know Josh probably won't be as high on that, so we might not make it a actual play, but I don't mind the Suarez 1.5 hits, runs, RBIs.
Yeah, I don't think I would like anything in this game. I'd rather just stay away. Maybe if you're down a little bit or if you're up a little bit and you want to throw together a late night slip for a small amount of your bankroll, then maybe that's something that you could include in there. But I wouldn't go much further than that.
Yeah, I don't know. I that I've mentioned like 3 teams now that I like more than just turning my bias into sending them up the rankings a little bit more today.
I know. You mentioned Brewers, and I could kind of tell that was the vibe.
Yeah, I was on Baltimore and Mariners today too. So
exactly, you're definitely in your Homer mood a little bit.
Yeah,
I've already dissed my Yankees once, so I don't think I'm in that one today. I've been there before, so
you're right. You just have to find teams that you want to rock with today. Is really what it is
for sure.
And that we already kind of talked about some of the scarier things for teams like Atlanta, teams like St. Louis, Cleveland. I mean, I don't know. There's just a bunch all over the board. I think we can agree though that Mets and Rays are way up there.
Yeah, I think you're 100% right in saying that. You got to find the teams that you really, I know it sounds a little bit weird when it comes to DFS, but kind of vibe with, especially today, because I think a lot of these teams have similar, every team has, I don't think there's one like clear team. I think every team has some green flags. All the good offenses that we've talked about, at least, all the teams have some green flags, and they all have at least one red flag that really scares me. For example, I really like that Mets team, but playing in Oakland sucks. And you can kind of go through that.
Exactly.
I really like Tampa Bay, but Barrios is at least showing some improvements that scare me a little bit. I really like Atlanta, but Brady Singer is a solid pitcher that I don't really like to target against. And the St. Louis, pitcher-friendly ballpark is the main red flag there for me. And Oviedo isn't necessarily the worst pitcher in the world either. So I think you really got to find the team that you vibe with the most today. And for me, it's some of these other ones that we've talked about.
Right, and we know that Houston has good BVP against Perez, but Martin Perez is still an above-average pitcher. So
yeah, exactly.
It's right. So it's all over the board today.
Truly is.
But yeah, again, thanks to everybody. And we still have one more game to go, so we'll get to that one next. But thanks for keeping up with us for the last hour plus. We're going to be doing this every Monday through Friday at 3 p.m. Eastern. So appreciate you all coming in, even if you're not commenting. We still appreciate everybody for watching. This is going to remain free. We're going to obviously have entries and DFS stuff behind the paywall, but we wanted to start doing this podcast for free. It's been 6 years of doing podcasts behind the paywall now, and we're doing something different this time around with it, especially when we now include these prop conversations. So do we have anything else to include in terms of the game we're talking about right now?
No, let's move on. Let's talk about this late night hammer.
All right. Hopefully I can get through this game. All right.
I know. I'm putting your voice to the test. We're at 1:10. We're at an hour and 10 minutes right now. So really testing to see if the cold can last here.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Yeah, it's been a rough week, but we're almost done. Chicago Cubs and the LA Dodgers right now. The Cubs are plus 142 behind Justin Steele. Noah Syndergaard gets the bump for the Dodgers, the minus 168 money line home favorite. 8.5 is the total for this game with juice on the under. And let's just start off by saying this is going to be a real true test for Justin Steele. Seen a lot of people, advanced analytics guys, saying that he has the stuff to take it to the next level, and we kind of saw a little bit of that last season. And now he finds himself on a DFS site like FanDuel at 10,500 against this Dodgers team. Now, I'm not suggesting playing him, but I think that the more important question is, can we play bats against him on a spot where obviously the Dodgers, being the Dodgers, they're going to have a high implied total. So another team that's in this massive range of like 4.6 implied to 5. And I think that I buy into Justin Steele. And I think that you do as well.
Not today.
Not
I
today,
think
but just
overall, I buy into Justin Steele. Yes, I think he's going to be very similar to Dallas Keuchel in his prime. I think is a great comparison. Really solid ground ball rate. K rate's always going to be like upper teens / low 20s. He's going to come through for his team in terms of getting wins quite a bit. But here's the thing that I really struggle with. So far to start out the year, this Dodgers team has a 20% walk rate against left-handed pitchers. They are seeing left-handed pitchers so well. And that's one of the things that Steele is really struggling with. And one of the things that kind of prevents him from being that Dallas Keuchel type pitcher is the fact that his walk rate is all the way up to 10%. That's what it was last year at the very least. I think he's going to run into a lot of problems with the walk rate. And it is this year too, by the way. It's at 10.6.
Yes.
It's higher than it was last year. So I think he's going to run into a lot of very patient batters throughout this whole entire lineup, and that's going to really throw him for a loop, and it's what's going to make him struggle the most today. So while I believe in Steele, I don't believe in this spot. The problem is walks don't really help you in a DFS perspective, so I don't really know what to do with the DFS side of things for this Dodgers team. I think more than likely I'll just happily stay away, but maybe bet on it in terms of I don't know, if they get on base, they're going to score somehow. So maybe bet on it in terms of betting on the Dodgers to win this one, or betting on the Dodgers to go over their total team runs, whatever you want to do. But I just don't think Steele gets the job done.
Or maybe it's targeting guys that are righties that have low ground ball rates. Like I mean, I know it's
Maybe.
low sample size, but like bets would qualify here.
Those are the guys who are going to get walked. And those are the guys you have to
Yeah,
pay
yeah.
an extraordinary amount for, because yes,
Fair.
Betts ground ball rate is 16% this year against lefties, limited sample size, 11 batted plate appearances, not a lot, but his walk rate is high too. And that's similar to career stats too. I think what you could do, no, I don't even like that. Never mind. I don't really like anything here. Maybe you go for fantasy scores, but Mookie Betts' fantasy scores only 8, actually. I thought it was going to be a lot higher than that.
Okay.
Maybe that's what you roll with. We're not on the
Yeah,
prize
I
pick
mean, it
screen
is
yet, but
heavily influenced by the it's 9.5 on underdog, and that's I think mainly because of the walk stuff and
yeah,
the
it would probably. This is the one time where I would probably recommend taking it over on underdog rather than taking it on FanDuel on prize picks, because you get those walks boosted a little bit more over there.
Yep. You also get the stolen base. Wait, no, you don't. It's 4 on underdog, 5 on prize picks, right? So that slight downgrade there. But yeah, I think that the Dodgers are not going to be a team that I'm going to be rostering today, because again, like 4K and above bats, or guys that have like 8 to 8.5 fantasy scores, I'm just interested in other teams.
I would agree.
Noah Syndergaard against this Cubs team. I feel like he's been trying to find his home here. Looked really good against Arizona the first time, and then like we always say, the second time against the same team in a week usually is not a good outcome, and that's exactly what happened. Gave up 6 earned runs in 4 innings to Arizona. Gets this Cubs team. I'm not necessarily sure what to do with it. I think the easy answer is stay away, but is there anything we can poke from here?
Cody Bellinger returning to Dodger Stadium. Little revenge
That's
narrative.
nice. I almost forgot.
Little spice stuff there. I don't mind it. He
Yeah.
hasn't been that bad to start out the year. The swing looks good. He's not striking out at those extraordinary rates anymore. So it's not a bad play. I don't think it's the best play ever either. You're going up against the Dodgers, so it's definitely going to be tough. But that's made up for by the fact that Dodger Stadium is very hitter friendly. It's one of the most hitter friendly ballparks in terms of home runs in the MLB. If I remember correctly, I'll pull this up on my side of things. Yeah, they have the 3rd most home runs over the past 3 years at Dodger Stadium. Or that's just park factor base. It's not necessarily most home runs there, but
Right.
quite a few home runs. That ballpark helps out home run ability a lot. So you could see Cody take advantage of that, and I don't mind the spot for him. I think that's probably the best that you're going to get, though, in terms of this Cubs team today. Outside of that, I'm really not all that interested, though they should have Seiya Suzuki returning today, which will be fun to see.
Yep, and he'll probably be right in front of Bellinger today. So there's that. 6.5 fantasy score for Cody. It's actually pretty nice.
Yeah, I can get behind that for sure.
Okay, I'll write that one up. We do have one more thing to mention today, because I was going to end it right here, but we have to at least acknowledge the fact that Marco Gonzalez got scratched today. He's officially on the paternity list today, so hopefully that's all good with him. But we got the news that Tommy Milone will start for the Mariners today.
That's kind of spicy, but I hate that Rockies team. That Rockies team absolutely sucks. So Malone's a lefty, right? I gotta go check. I can't remember. I remember him pitching last year. I can't remember what side for the plate. Hold on 1 second. Tommy Malone, where is he? It's not on here. I'm gonna have to go over Fangraphs, aren't I? Tommy Malone. I have to
Yeah, I
write
think
in
it's
the.
at least something to touch on.
Yeah, I doubt I'm gonna like anything from it, but I figure we look it up just to live research with the people. Um, yeah, he is lefty, so no thanks. Rockies have been really bad against left-handed pitchers this year, and I'll just bank on that rather than anything else.
All right, that's it for me. Again, like we've mentioned a bunch of times on this slate, there are so many offenses, and I think you just back the ones that you feel really, really good about. Those for us would be the Rays, would be the Mets, would be some Guardians, and then I'll let Josh take it away from there.
Yeah, for me, it's gonna be that Guardians team. I really like them. Going to be. I think after that, I like Mets. I like Tampa Bay a lot. I like Atlanta. If I'm ranking those, it's a little bit different. I think Tampa's number one, Cleveland number two, Mets number three, Atlanta number four, and then I'm trying to think of my number five team. Can Shohei Ohtani be my number five team?
Houston.
That's yeah. I guess Houston. They're okay. Yeah, we mentioned some guys you like there. I'm a little bit less on the BVP stuff, but I understand it. Yeah, I think that there's definitely it's a really good slate. You have to pick your offenses very carefully tonight. But I think we're in a really good spot. And we've seen the industry make some mistakes in terms of what offenses they're picking. So if they go to the Yankees again, that could be a huge mistake today. I think people are underestimating how good this Louis Varland kid is. Definitely a solid pitcher. So, yeah, it's going to be an interesting slate. And that's another thing. Like we mentioned with all these other teams, Yankees certainly have their positives, but that's a big red flag with big red flag with Louis Varland, and that's something that I think they could struggle with.
Yeah. All right. Like I said before, thanks for all of you who are either commenting or are just watching. We are doing this show every Monday through Friday at 3 p.m. Eastern. So we'll be here on YouTube. And yeah, let's go ahead and crush. Hope you all have a great Friday, and we'll see you back on Monday.
Yes, sir. Let's get out of here. All right. Thank you all for listening. As always, my name is Joshua Riemer. Good night and good skill.